None of us can change our yesterday, but all of us can change our tomorrows. In this installment of the Personal Growth Now Down to Earth, the podcast, we are talking about and discussing growing more autonomous. Now, this has to do with several different factors, including owning your feelings, focusing on internal locus of control rather than external, and prioritizing your own needs, wants, and desires and values. Now, I believe these are the 3 steps to growing more autonomous, and we are going to get into that in just a moment. But before we begin, I want us all to really understand our own value. Oftentimes, if we're coming from abusive situations or past traumas, our self-image definitely takes a downturn. And the goal here is to rework and rebuild our self-image for a better, brighter future. And we do that through community, and we do that through listening to all of these videos and building an inner resilience and inner harmony in which we can then operate from. This acts as a foundation. So again, let's reiterate this. You are so valuable. You are so important. Anybody listening to this message, I know if you're on this channel, you are all about personal growth and development for your life. You have stumbled across a video or two that you really enjoyed, and I very much appreciate you being here. But the real goal here is for us to truly recognize that we are powerful beyond measure, that we really can live our life purpose, but it really takes an inner resolve. It takes an inner knowing of self and who you are, and it takes building yourself back up. We often think that all the answers lie outside of ourselves, but if we are always relying on things outside of ourselves to line up before we can be happy and content, I don't think we will ever be happy. We will always be waiting for the next best thing. So we must have the right attitude here as we move into 2021 and for the years to come. But the best solution here is to build our own foundation. But we must work on continually improving our image of self. That's where it all begins. Relying more upon your inner faculties, relying more upon self than you are outer circumstance. We have all been through many different trials, some way more catastrophic than others, but Napoleon Hill once said that every negative event contains within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So don't allow what's happened in the past continue to dictate where you think your future will lead. We often get trapped by the prison that is in our own mind. It tells us things like, you're not good enough, you will never amount to much, your time is done, you have seen your best days. Because of this poor self-image, we think in terms that do not serve our well-being. We think that everything outside of us and everybody else in the world are actually the stars, and that we are just a passerby in the journey of life and existence. But if you realize and recognize the God powers within you, you can break free of this bondage. We are not meant to be slaves of ourselves. We are meant to flourish like nature, like the plants, like the flowers, and like the trees. We are meant to harmonize and fully blossom into the potentiality of whatever it is that we do desire. One more quote here before we move on to the 3 steps to growing more autonomous. The quote reads, "When I was younger, I used to think that movies were real life. I asked my mom once, 'Who's the main character of the earth?' She replied, 'You are.'" I want us to sit in that for a moment. Who's the main character of the earth? You are. You see, why would you choose to be an extra in your own movie? You are here. If you are living, breathing, and able to comprehend these valuable lessons, if you are able to comprehend a sense of self and self-evaluation, it means that there is a reason you are here. It means that you have a purpose and a destiny to fulfill. You see, we choose what we do in our lives. We have free will, which allows us to make either good or bad decisions. And really, every decision is a learning curve. It's there to help us learn, grow, and communicate more effectively. Really, this is just a state of being. You will have acquired from many years of learning lessons the strength to carry on. At least, that's what your inner resolve and inner decision should lead you to. You see, circumstances in life, I've learned that it can either make or break your present and future desired realities. Motivational speaker and life coach Tony Robbins is huge on this concept that no matter what happens in our lives, we have the power and choice to decide what things mean. We create the meaning. So is this the end or the beginning? You decide. You choose. Are you going to continue living as an extra in your own film? Or are you going to take the reins and know and look in that mirror and really start to begin seeing value in yourself? We do this through a continuation of personal growth. That's the only way, is through study and study of self. Self-actualization, self-realization, the elimination of fear, worry, doubt, and disbelief and discord within. The true wisdom and true fulfillment lies within our inner dormant resources that often go unnoticed and unrecognized throughout our lifespan. Few uncover these hidden golden truths, while others continue merely surviving. But we are not meant to merely survive, my friends. We are meant to thrive in a world of discomfort. Just remember this: it's not what happened to you that's going to make the meaningful difference in your life. It's where are you choosing to go now? Where are you choosing to grow now? And what areas of your life now are you expanding on? The possibility, or are you referring back to your old past? Are you remaining slave to the past? It's all a choice. It's a crossroads. Are you choosing to go left or right? Are you choosing to move backwards into safety, or are you creating the hope and future of your dreams by plugging into the frequencies that you're wishing to really experience? You see, it's all a choice, and that begins with understanding our value and our inner gifts to remain calm in states of chaos and calamity, and to really continue pursuing and persevering towards the hope for the future. Life often throws its fair share of disappointments. Thank you for tuning in this far. That was a bit of an introduction, a little bit unexpected, but needed nonetheless. So moving forward in this podcast, the 3 steps to growing more autonomous. Well, what is the definition of autonomous? What does it mean to be autonomous? Well, here's a definition. Autonomy meaning having the freedom to govern self independently. Kantian moral philosophy definition is acting in accordance with one's moral duty and values rather than one's desires. Now, this can be a bit tricky, but summed up, autonomy means control over self. The first step to growing more autonomous is owning your feelings. Now, owning your feelings means accepting them rather than judging. You see, we've been brainwashed in society. We have been taught through social programming, we call this the socialized mind, that we shun feelings that are bad. We disapprove of feelings that are bad or wrong, and we make them wrong. And we only approve and accept the positive feelings. But you see, this becomes a recipe for trauma. This becomes a recipe for gaslighting yourself and others, further separating us from the God or unity consciousness that resides within us. we become further fragmented in our consciousness, which leads to an uncomfortable level of disharmony, discord, and disintegration. It really leads us to disease and death. It's those inner feelings within that we are alone. This is why this podcast is perhaps the most important one that we've uploaded yet to the channel, and we must study it continuously, and we must review it and go back and rewatch. I often say it's through the repetition that our self-image begins to exonerate and clear any negative neural pathways that have been conditioned in that socialized mind, or from the past in general, from past traumas, pains, doubts, fears, and worries. You see, the key here to owning your feelings and growing more autonomous is through calmness of mind and inner silence. Because through calmness and inner silence, all negativity is dissipated. Begin sitting and relaxing in your negative feelings. Calm is key. Validate your feelings, even if they're negative. This is a key to growing more harmonious within yourself, because it really is doing the inner work that gives us the power and liberation to change things outside of us. You see, it can be no other way. Whatever you change on the inside is undoubtedly reflected on the outside in the form of situations, circumstances, events, and experiences. The next step is step 2. Growing more autonomous, step 2. Here we go. Focus on internal locus of control rather than external. Now, what is focusing on the internal locus of control? What does that really mean? Well, if you focus on your internal locus of control, or what you feel in control of, you're attributing your own successes and failures to your own efforts. It's assuming self-responsibility as opposed to blaming everything outside of you. It has to do with ownership and taking personal accountability for your actions, thoughts, ideas, and beliefs, as well as your habits. You see, it has to do with a willingness to discern your inner self. It's an inner discernment and reliance upon self, as opposed to using people, places, and things as an ego boost or crutch, or even lifestyle. It can become very toxic. So just remember, typically the more you focus on your internal locus of control, the more control you actually have. And we're going after the feeling of what it really feels like to be in control of your life. If you rely more upon your inner resources and your inner strengths and your inner resilience, as opposed to looking for the answers outside of you and all of the feelings outside of you, which we naturally will because we live in a very superficial world, but as we take these powers inwardly, I do believe, are becoming more godlike in a sense. We must operate from the knowing place that things are turning around for our benefit. It's a feeling place, and it's also a place of knowing and a positive environment in which we are operating that foundation from. The final step in creating a more autonomous life for yourself is step 3. Step 3, prioritize your own needs, wants, desires, and values. If you are unaware of your needs, wants, desires, and values, I suggest looking up The 6 Human Needs by Tony Robbins and discovering what your primary needs are. There's actually a quiz to help you do that. Write down and make a list of your values if you are unclear on them. This will help you know exactly what you want so that you can stay on track to pursue it. By pursue, I simply mean tuning in and plugging into the frequency and not settling for anything less than you know that you deserve. Prioritizing your own needs, wants, desires, and values means to prioritize and organize a self-care routine. Now, these are just a few examples here. New clothes, fresh haircut, a change in style and appearance, even new decor or furniture, changing things up, growing and improving yourself, reading and listening to new information, personal growth. The idea here is to willingly and actively treat yourself habitually. The principle is to stop relying on others, especially if they are toxic sources, and intentional removing of toxic energies, as well as energy vampires. Definitely take this knowledge, study it often, and one more time, this was growing more autonomous in a world that wants us to be very reliant upon it. Now, we naturally rely upon positive sources, but we want to also begin focusing on that internal locus of control. This gives us back control of our lives. This gives us back the power to create the life that we have imagined. Remember, you decide which crossroads you take. You're either going to live from the past or you're going to live from whatever you choose. Choose to live from the desired reality of your dreams. Choose that you will make a commitment and a permanent decision and a concrete decision to plug up to the frequency of love. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new and you enjoyed this content. Also, share this content if you found it valuable. And finally, for future updates on content and videos, ring the bell and turn on notifications. Thank you all for being here. Definitely tune in to all of our videos and keep up to date. We will see you in next week's podcast episode.